Familiar with?
What about when you were in different countries?
One time, I hadn't made the discovery. It wasn't my discovery. It was Peter Sloterdijk, one of his articles that I read. He's a philosopher in Germany. His family is actually in Netherlands, but he's always been in Germany. But he's got, he's current. He's actively working on all of the issues. But one of the essays he wrote was about, after Columbus and how the Europeans all got interested in filling in all the blank spaces on this globe, because now that they had the globe and they had a sense of, how much bigger it was, and the poles, the explorers wanted to go and be the first one to reach the North Pole and the South Pole and look and see what was there, and a lot of people died doing stupid shit like that. That's cold. Your ship is a little wooden ship and it's stuck in the ice. You got hardly anything to live off of except the leather from the, what an awful last few days.
Somebody's got to do it.
No, they don't. You can wait. Wait till Google Earth, and then you can see what's there. You don't have to. I don't have to travel to the top of Mount Everest. I could. At the time that I had it, I had a free iPad that the university gave me. It was supposed to help me get online and be more entertaining. So they gave us these free iPads, which were actually used ones, old used ones. But I was lying in bed and I Google Earth, Mount Everest, and I'm literally on top of Mount Everest, looking around. Beautiful. I don't need to go there. I have trouble breathing because there's no oxygen, and losing toes and fingers and noses and whatever else sticks out, because you don't have the right equipment. Who would? You need a spacesuit to go there. Or Google Earth. Just go there with Google Earth. What are you there for? You're there to see everything. And I'm like, okay, I can see everything. I can go this way.
Do you know the type of personalities that need to climb up
No.
on top of the mountain?
No. Being in the Army in the winter up here was sufficient for me to get used to the idea of freezing your buns off and breaking equipment for no reason except to find out that, it breaks in this stuff. Yeah, let's go back and fix it and take it out and break it again. So, greetings. Today, the main character we'll look at is Karl Marx, but I did want to finish up a few things driving home. On Monday, I realized that I mentioned Sartre's I am what I am not, and I am not what I am, which is just one of my favorites of his. He's got lots. We're condemned to be free, and so on. The follow-up to that is because we have this characteristic mentally as the in itself and the for itself, the en soi and the pour soi en français, right, is the result is a gap. And so in his book, Being and Nothingness, let me give you something besides me to look at. Obviously, I'm focused on this too, but look, this is the first thing that AI Google gives us. Person's identity is not predetermined by their essence or nature, but rather is actively created through their choices and actions in the world. There's Being and Nothingness. We could look at that. That's a page. But the neat thing is, so being is all this stuff, everything that there is. That's the being, essentially. And neon is nothingness. And where does the nothingness come from? For Sartre and his magical switcheroo on this kind of a big picture topic is to point out that the gap between the en soi and the pour soi is nothing. There's nothing there. So that's where nothingness comes into being. In the gap between the self that's having an experience and what I think of as myself. I'm not it. It's not really me. It's just how I imagine myself cognitively, right? With the help of others, of course. But at the same time, I am that. That's the closest I can have to me. But there's a gap between me being what I am and not being that, right? There's a gap. And what is that gap? Well, there's nothing there. There's nothing in that gap. Cognitively, it leads me to this constant need to decide for myself what I'm supposed to do. But as far as Sartre is concerned, that is the nothingness coiled in the heart of being like a worm. Like an apple, you get a worm. You've never seen a worm in an apple. Our apples come, so perfect. They're clearly made out of plastic. But so that's why you're condemned to be free, is because even if you're saying to yourself, gee, I have to do this, I can't not do this, you're actually making that decision to do that. And in fact, there's a timeliness to Sartre's position on this. And that was because as a Frenchman at the time, he was part of the occupied France of the Nazi Germans, and lived through it. He was part of the underground. He was jailed for a while, still wrote some books, or plays actually. The German censors approved them even though they were critical of the Nazis. Kind of amazing. But in any case, afterwards, there's the trial of the Nazis, the Nuremberg trials. And the Nuremberg trials, the Nazis defended themselves with a basic Stoic ethic that said, my duty is to the state, so when the state tells me kill these people, I do it. It's my job. And the highest ethic is to the state. So there's no moral value that says I'm not allowed to kill these people because they're innocent civilians. My state has told me to kill these people. And by the way, if I didn't do it, they would kill me anyway. So I do it. Well, Trump's response to these folks that say that I had no choice, I had to do what the state told me to do, and do what I was ordered to do, was you do have the choice. You could always choose instead to let them kill you by not doing what you're told, or even to commit suicide rather than do it. If you feel that it's morally wrong to kill these people, you can say no. You don't have to do it. And the freedom comes from your being forced to be free because of your human nature, which is, that's, when we talk about free will, are people free agents? Hegel gives us that conceptual argument that you're constantly in this dialectical process. And as a result, you are free. You're free every moment, even if you feel like you're being constrained by your laws or your community or your required contracts and so on. You are free to change your mind. One of the interesting things that Sartre points out that is especially bothersome, though, is like, you get married, you promise, to love one another until death do you part, or however that phrase goes, and you think, aha, I'm committed to behave and do these things. But what Sartre points out is, despite your making that kind of promise, you actually have to make the decision every single moment. You know, you're not covered by the promise that you made years ago that you always, so you're not relieved of the difficulty of having to decide moment by moment. You still have to make that decision every day, because you're never free of freedom. You always have to make that choice. So Sartre is pretty interesting. It's also depressing. I mean, when I look at existentialists, we don't really call them existentialists so much anymore. Today we call people that are essentially still following that same kind of program or philosophy postmodernists, I think. And there's lots of other isms, structuralism, and so on. But it's depressing. Most people that are in this philosophical mood are very depressed about their experience being free and feeling like they don't have something that could really guide them. There are different kinds of existentialists. Sartre is definitely an atheistic existentialist, as is Simone de Beauvoir, his companion. But the Christian existentialists are there. There's more than a few.
Could you pronounce the vision of Confucian in French? It's at in the bottom of it's in blue.
This is Latin.
Oh, what is this?
That means the beings that are the cause of themselves. Well, and there it says, meaning literally a being that causes itself. So. And how do you say it? And it's causa sui. No problem with sui. Causa, no problem. And so that's. I mean, the thing is, in Latin, there's lots of arguments between different individuals over how to pronounce things. Is it Veni Vidi Vici or Veni Vidi Vici? You know, that's.
Oh, it's Veni Vidi
Yeah. Yeah, but there are folks that feel like the V should be pronounced V, and so on. Yeah, there's goofy arguments. It's a dead language. Not really. If you're in the church, you still use it. However, okay, so existentialism. And the reason I feel like as a philosophy it fails is because they're really isolating their thinking and themselves as individuals. They're cutting themselves off from that interdependence. Now, when we go to the Marxists or the others, these are the young Hegelians, actually. That's the group, what the group was considered. One of them we should mention is Ludwig Feuerbach. Feuerbach literally means a stream on fire. A Bach is a little stream, and Feuer obviously is fire. And Feuerbach is interesting not only because of his influence on Marx, but he's the one that, in a sense, invents humanism as a belief system, as opposed to, say, a religious belief system. The idea of being a humanist is someone who critiques the traditional religions and points out that they make God so special that it makes us feel like sinners and corrupt and miserable, and yet he says, notice that it's actually humans that have created all these wonderful things, all this technology, all these beautiful artworks and things, the architecture and all that stuff, we should be celebrating ourselves. And so, as a humanist, we should celebrate being human and hold humanity up as the wonderful, divine, so to speak, thing, as opposed to some imaginary creator that is contradictory. You can't actually be everything and nothing. You can't really be all good, all powerful, and all, everything. And yet at the same time, for that to make sense at all. So why even have this, ridiculous imaginary deity, which seems mostly to make us seem like we're just absolutely corrupt, miserable, fallen creatures, when actually we're just amazing. We're terrific. We should be thrilled with how wonderful humanity is, etc. So don't repress humanity for the sake of sacrificial service to this imaginary abstract being. Other young Hegelians